The air in our suburban Portland home was thick with unspoken words, a tension that had been building since Lisa turned 16. I stood in the kitchen, chopping vegetables for dinner while my mind drifted to the conversation I had with my daughter just days earlier. "Mom, there's someone I need to tell you about," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. The way she looked at me, wide-eyed and vulnerable, stirred something within me. "Who is he?" I asked, trying to keep my tone casual. Lisa had always been open with me about her life, but this felt different. She hesitated, biting her lip as if weighing the consequences of her confession. "His name is Jake," she finally said, glancing down at her feet. He's my boyfriend." I felt a wave of warmth wash over me at the mention of his name. Jake was a good-looking young man with tousled hair and an easy smile that lit up his face. He was charming in that effortless way that made everyone around him feel special. And yet, as Lisa spoke about him with excitement and trepidation, I couldn't shake the pang of jealousy that twisted in my stomach. "Does Dad know?" I asked cautiously. She shook her head vigorously. "No. He can't find out. Please, Mom." The desperation in her voice cut through me like a knife. How could I betray her trust? Yet deep down, I felt an unsettling attraction to Jake that I couldn't ignore. The days passed slowly as I tried to support Lisa while wrestling with my own feelings. Each time Jake came over for dinner or joined us for family outings in the Pearl District, where we'd stroll past bustling cafes and vibrant art galleries, I felt a magnetic pull toward him. He was funny and engaging. He made me laugh in ways I hadn't experienced in years. One evening, after Lisa had gone to bed, Jake lingered on our porch while waiting for his ride home. We shared stories under the stars, laughter spilling into the night air like music notes drifting away into the darkness. There was an undeniable chemistry between us that crackled like electricity. "Your daughter is amazing," he said suddenly, looking straight into my eyes. "You've done a great job raising her." His words were innocent enough but held an undertone that sent shivers down my spine. Did he see me as more than just Lisa's mother? My heart raced as our conversation deepened and became more personal. The next day brought another twist when Lisa confided in me about a small argument she'd had with Jake over something trivial, his late-night texts or his friend's influence on him, and it struck me how naive she was about relationships. "Mom, do you think he really likes me?" she asked earnestly. I wanted to scream at her to see what lay beneath his charming facade but instead nodded reassuringly. "Of course he does," I lied gently. As the weeks rolled on, supporting Lisa became increasingly complicated as my feelings toward Jake intensified. Whenever we were together alone, watching movies or cooking dinner, I felt an inexplicable urge to reach out and touch him just to see if the spark would ignite into something more profound than mere attraction. One evening after dinner, when Lisa excused herself to take a call from a friend, Jake turned toward me with an intensity that made my breath hitch in my throat. "Can we talk?" he asked softly. I nodded hesitantly as we moved outside onto the porch once more, the familiar backdrop of twinkling stars above us casting shadows on our faces. "I know this might sound odd," he started slowly, "but there's something about you that draws me in." My heart raced. Every fiber of my being screamed at me to step back but instead found myself leaning closer to him without realizing it until our lips brushed against each other, a fleeting moment filled with regret and desire. Just then, we heard footsteps approaching. It was Lisa returning from her call, oblivious to what had just transpired between us. My heart sank as panic coursed through me like ice water. How could I have let this happen? As days turned into weeks filled with secrets and hidden glances shared between us during family dinners or outings around town, the tension grew thicker than ever before, a tightrope walk between loyalty and desire that threatened to snap at any moment. Lisa soon began demanding things from us, small favors at first, like extra money for clothes or permission to stay out late with friends. But it escalated quickly when she hinted at needing a new car for herself as leverage against both of us if things didn't go her way. "Mom," she said one afternoon while sitting across from me at our kitchen table after school. "If you don't help me get this car, well," her voice trailed off ominously. "What do you mean?" I asked nervously. "I just think you should consider how much you love your daughter." Her eyes narrowed slightly. It was then that I realized how much power she believed she held over both Jake and myself now, a power born from secrets kept too long and desires unfulfilled. That evening after Lisa went to bed again, I found myself on the porch staring into space lost in thought when suddenly Jake appeared beside me, breaking through my reverie with his presence alone. "I can't stop thinking about what happened between us," he admitted quietly, looking down at his hands fidgeting nervously against each other before meeting my gaze again firmly, this time without hesitation behind those deep-set eyes filled with longing mixed equally alongside fear of repercussions looming ahead if anyone found out, including Lisa herself, who remained blissfully unaware, still caught up within her own tangled web of teenage romance blossoming right under our noses unbeknownst. Until now. We exchanged knowing glances filled not only with longing but also trepidation, knowing full well how fragile everything currently stood, waiting precariously balanced upon its edge, ready for anything unexpected could tip things over, leading towards chaos unfolding before us all inevitably. As I stood in the kitchen, the scent of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the faint aroma of cinnamon from the pastries cooling on the counter, I couldn't shake the weight of what had transpired. The kiss lingered on my lips, a reminder of how easily lines could blur when emotions ran high. I glanced out the window, watching as Lisa's friends arrived for their weekend gathering. They were oblivious to the turmoil brewing beneath our roof. "Mom, can you help me with something?" Lisa called from the living room, her voice bright and cheerful. I took a deep breath and forced a smile. "Sure, honey. What do you need?" As I walked into the living room, I found her scrolling through her phone. A wave of guilt washed over me at the thought of helping her maintain her secret while harboring my own. "I need some advice on how to keep things under wraps with Ryan," she said, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Of course," I replied, trying to sound enthusiastic. "What's going on?" Lisa bit her lip, glancing at me with a mix of trust and anticipation. "He wants to take me out next weekend, but Dad can't know. He wouldn't understand." "Why don't you just tell him?" I suggested lightly, though my heart raced at the thought of what that would mean for both of us. "Because he'll freak out. You know how he is," she replied with an exasperated sigh. I nodded, knowing all too well how protective her father could be. "Okay then," I said slowly. "Let's come up with a plan." We spent the next hour brainstorming ways to keep her relationship hidden from my husband. Each suggestion felt like another thread weaving our lives together in ways we never intended. As we plotted and laughed over shared memories, I couldn't help but notice how much Lisa mirrored my own youthful spirit, confident yet naive about love's complexities. Later that evening, while preparing dinner, thoughts of Ryan invaded my mind again. There was something magnetic about him, his charm was undeniable and his attention intoxicating. The way he looked at me made me feel seen in a way that had been absent for years in my marriage. The doorbell rang just as I was setting the table. My heart raced again. Was it Ryan? But it was only one of Lisa's friends arriving early for their gathering. Relief washed over me as laughter filled our home once more. As night fell and laughter echoed through our living room, I tried to focus on being present for Lisa and her friends. Yet my mind kept drifting back to Ryan, the thrill of that kiss replaying in vivid detail like a movie stuck on repeat. The evening wore on with games and chatter until eventually everyone dispersed into small groups or pairs around our house. It was then that Lisa pulled me aside into the kitchen. "Mom," she whispered urgently, "can you keep an eye out for any photos? Ryan sent me one earlier today that could get us both in trouble if Dad sees it." My stomach dropped at those words, she had no idea how close we were to unraveling everything we'd tried so hard to hide. "What kind of photo?" I asked cautiously. "Just us being silly at school," she said dismissively, but then added quickly, "but he has this thing about sharing them online sometimes." I nodded slowly. It was easy enough to see how something innocent could spiral into chaos if misinterpreted or discovered by someone else, especially her father. Later that night, as everyone settled down for bed, I found myself unable to sleep. Thoughts raced through my mind. How fragile our lives felt now and how easily they could shatter under scrutiny if anyone caught wind of what lay beneath this facade we'd built together. I tiptoed down the hall towards Lisa's room when suddenly a light flickered from behind closed doors, her phone illuminated brightly on her desk where it had been left unattended. Curiosity piqued. I hesitated before stepping inside cautiously and picking up the device carefully between two fingers before glancing down at its screen. A photo flashed before my eyes. It was unmistakably Ryan and me standing close together during one of our recent outings at a local cafe. Panic surged through me as realization struck hard. This picture could expose everything. How did it even end up here? Did Lisa see it already? My heart raced as questions flooded my mind like an uncontrollable tide threatening to sweep away everything we built thus far, a web woven tightly yet precariously balanced upon secrets unspoken. Just then, footsteps echoed down the hall. Lisa appeared in pajamas, looking sleep-deprived but alert nonetheless when she spotted me clutching her phone tightly against my chest. "What are you doing?" she asked suspiciously. I froze momentarily before responding quickly, "I just wanted to check your messages." Her eyes narrowed slightly as suspicion flickered across her face, the tension thickening between us like fog rolling in off the coast on a chilly Oregon morning. But before she could press further about what exactly I'd seen or why I had taken such liberties without asking first, I knew we needed to pivot away from this moment quickly lest it turn into something far worse than either one of us anticipated. "I'm sorry," I blurted out, suddenly feeling overwhelmed by guilt creeping up around every corner, threatening suffocation if allowed too much space within this fragile moment shared between mother-daughter bonds tested by unforeseen circumstances beyond either control. "Let's talk tomorrow instead." She studied me carefully but ultimately relented with an unconvincing nod before retreating back toward her room, leaving behind shadows lingering long after footsteps faded away into silence once more. As dawn broke over Portland, casting warm hues across rooftops outside my window, I couldn't help but wonder if life would ever return back toward normalcy again amidst all these tangled ties binding us closer yet threatening destruction unlike anything imagined possible beforehand. The morning light filtered through the kitchen window, illuminating the remnants of last night's dinner. I busied myself with the dishes, trying to drown out the chaos swirling in my mind. Lisa's demand for a new car echoed in my ears like a relentless drumbeat. How had we reached this point? My heart raced as I recalled our lips meeting, a moment that felt both electric and forbidden. "Mom, are you okay?" Lisa's voice broke through my thoughts. She stood at the entrance to the kitchen, arms crossed, an expression of concern etched on her face. "Just thinking about dinner plans," I replied, forcing a smile. "What do you want to eat tonight?" "Something fun," she said, her tone light but her eyes studying me intently. "Maybe we could order from that new Thai place?" "Sure," I nodded, grateful for the distraction. Yet beneath my calm facade lay a tempest of emotions, guilt and confusion over my feelings for her boyfriend mixed with the weight of maintaining our fragile secret. As Lisa turned to leave, I caught sight of her phone buzzing on the counter. A message from him flashed across the screen, "Can't wait to see you later." My stomach twisted at the thought of their rendezvous while I grappled with my own hidden desires. I glanced at Lisa again as she headed upstairs, her silhouette disappearing into the shadows of our home. The walls felt like they were closing in on me, each corner filled with memories of family dinners and laughter that now seemed distant and hollow. Later that afternoon, my husband returned home earlier than usual. The moment he stepped through the door, I sensed a shift in his demeanor, a tension crackling in the air between us like static electricity before a storm. "Hey," he greeted casually, but his eyes narrowed as he scanned the room. "Everything all right?" "Just busy with chores," I replied too quickly, turning back to wash another dish to avoid his gaze. He stepped closer, leaning against the counter with an intensity that made my heart race for all the wrong reasons. "You seem distracted lately." "I'm fine," I insisted, forcing a laugh that felt foreign on my lips. "Are you sure?" He pressed further. "Because it feels like there's something going on." I met his gaze briefly before looking away. The truth hung heavy between us, a secret too monumental to share without shattering everything we had built over 20 years together. "I promise it's nothing," I said finally, but even as those words left my mouth, doubt crept in. Could he sense what was happening? The thought sent shivers down my spine. That evening was tense. Dinner felt like an exercise in avoidance as we danced around unspoken truths. Lisa remained glued to her phone while my husband occasionally shot glances at me that made me feel exposed under his scrutiny. After dinner, Lisa excused herself under the pretense of studying for an upcoming exam. As soon as she left the room, my husband turned to me with a serious expression. "Are you really okay?" he asked again. "Yes." My voice was sharper than intended, frustration bubbled beneath my surface. "Why do you keep asking?" "Because something feels off," he replied quietly. "And if there is something?" "There isn't." The words burst from me before I could stop them. He sighed heavily and ran a hand through his hair. "All right then." The rest of the evening passed in silence, punctuated by occasional glances that spoke volumes more than words ever could. As night fell and darkness enveloped our home like a thick fog, dread settled over me like an unwelcome guest. I lay awake long after my husband drifted off to sleep beside me. Thoughts spiraled around Lisa's ultimatum and what it would mean if she followed through on her threat for a new car, an act of desperation fueled by secrets she barely understood herself. As dawn broke again over Portland's skyline, painting everything in soft pastels outside our window, I couldn't shake off this feeling that everything was teetering on an edge, waiting for one tiny push to send it all crashing down. Days passed uneasily. Every interaction carried an undercurrent of tension, suffocating any semblance of normalcy we once shared as a family unit. Each laugh felt forced while every conversation danced around topics left unsaid until they became unbearable burdens weighing us down collectively yet separately. On Saturday afternoon, during lunch preparations for our family gathering later that day, a birthday celebration meant to bring everyone together, I found myself lost once more deep within conflicting feelings surrounding both Lisa and her boyfriend, who had somehow entwined himself into our lives far more intricately than anyone anticipated. Just then Lisa burst into the kitchen wearing an excited grin paired with flushed cheeks, the kind only seen when one is hiding something exhilarating yet potentially devastating at once. "What is it?" I asked cautiously, because instinctively knowing whatever news she brought could alter everything again. "I invited Jake." Her eyes sparkled mischievously as if revealing some grand surprise meant just for me alone, without realizing how dangerous this invitation truly was given our circumstances. I struggled to maintain composure while processing her announcement. Inviting him felt reckless considering everything happening behind closed doors, but how could I voice these concerns without drawing suspicion toward myself? "That's great," I managed finally, though every word tasted bitter upon leaving lips barely able to contain rising panic boiling within. As preparations continued throughout afternoon hours leading up toward party time, I found myself questioning every choice made thus far, wondering if perhaps fate had conspired against us all along, or if this was merely one giant misstep spiraling out control faster than anticipated. By evening, when guests began arriving, filling our home with laughter amidst decorations hung lovingly by hand, it became increasingly difficult navigating conversations without letting slip any hints regarding hidden connections lurking just beneath surface. The atmosphere thickened around us like fog rolling into town, unexpectedly obscuring clarity while revealing layers previously unknown, waiting patiently until exposed under scrutiny. As Jake arrived fashionably late, wearing casual confidence paired perfectly alongside charming smile, it took everything within not letting emotions spill forth uncontrollably despite aching desire pulling toward him, still lingering strong even after all these weeks spent in turmoil. Lisa beamed proudly, introducing him among friends gathered around dining table filled generously overflowing plates, yet amidst joyous atmosphere brewing tension simmered just below surface, waiting eagerly for chance erupt unexpectedly when least expected. The laughter around the table rang hollow to me as I watched Lisa and Jake share their private jokes. They looked so carefree, so blissfully unaware of the storm brewing beneath the surface. I forced a smile, nodding along as Lisa recounted some trivial story from school, but all I could think about was how close Jake was sitting to me, how his presence ignited a whirlwind of emotions that threatened to consume everything. "Mom, you should have seen his face when he tripped over that stupid chair." Lisa laughed, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Jake chuckled in response, his gaze flickering toward me for just a moment. That brief eye contact sent a shiver down my spine. Did he remember our kiss? The way we spent the night together felt like a secret I couldn't bear to carry any longer. "Yeah, sounds like quite the adventure," I managed to say, my voice steady despite the chaos swirling within me. My husband sat at the end of the table, oblivious to the tension crackling in the air. He was busy with his phone, perhaps checking work emails or scrolling through social media, anything but noticing the precarious balance of our family dynamics. As dinner progressed, I tried to focus on the food and conversation around me. The aroma of roasted chicken mingled with garlic mashed potatoes filled the air. Yet every bite tasted bland compared to what was brewing beneath my skin, the conflict between duty and desire. "Mom, you have to try this dessert," Lisa exclaimed as she pushed a slice of chocolate cake toward me. "It's amazing." I took a forkful, forcing myself to chew while stealing glances at Jake, who was now animatedly discussing some video game with Lisa's friends. He seemed so at ease in this setting while I felt like an outsider in my own life. The evening wore on with laughter and light-hearted banter, but I could feel my heart racing whenever Jake's hand brushed against mine as he reached for another serving of food. Each touch sent sparks through me that were impossible to ignore. It was maddening. How had we allowed things to spiral so far out of control? Suddenly, Lisa's phone buzzed on the table. Her face fell as she glanced at it. Can't believe he texted me again." She rolled her eyes dramatically before looking up at us all. "Sorry guys, I need to take this." As she stepped out onto the porch for some privacy, Jake turned his attention back toward me. "So, how are you holding up?" His voice was low, almost conspiratorial. "I'm fine," I replied too quickly, realizing how defensive it sounded. "Just trying to keep everything together." He nodded but didn't look convinced. "You don't have to pretend with me." "I'm not pretending." The words slipped out sharper than intended. "Really?" He leaned closer, his gaze intense yet softening at the edges. "Because it seems like you're carrying a lot." Just then, Lisa burst back into the room with an expression that instantly shifted my mood from tense curiosity to dread. "You won't believe what just happened." Her excitement felt out of place amidst our charged conversation. "What is it?" I asked cautiously. "Jake's ex just texted him. She wants him back." The words hung in the air like a heavy cloud threatening rain. Jake shifted uncomfortably in his seat while Lisa continued her tirade about how ridiculous it all was. How could anyone want someone who had moved on? But all I could focus on was how this news would change everything between us. Before long, dinner concluded and we all gathered in the living room for games, a tradition meant to foster family bonding but now felt like an exercise in avoidance for me. As we played trivia and laughed along with old memories shared among friends and family members, each question reminded me more of what lay hidden beneath our laughter, a web of secrets threatening to unravel. Lisa's phone buzzed again during one round. She excused herself once more for another private chat outside while Jake drifted closer toward where I sat on the couch. "Can we talk?" he asked quietly. "About what?" He hesitated before leaning down slightly so only I could hear him over laughter echoing from across the room. "About us." My heart raced. This wasn't just idle chit-chat anymore. This was serious territory we were treading upon together without knowing where it might lead us both next. "Not here," I whispered urgently, glancing around nervously before meeting his gaze again, steadying myself against whatever might come next. His eyes held mine captive for too long before he nodded slowly in understanding. A silent agreement forged between us amidst chaos swirling outside our bubble formed by walls painted pale blue, reminding us both too much about home while everything else slipped away unnoticed. As time ticked by slowly into nightfall and games wound down, leaving behind remnants of laughter throughout rooms now dimmed by shadows creeping across walls, I felt trapped within this life straddling two worlds, one filled with obligations and expectations, another igniting passions burning brightly just beneath surface, waiting eagerly for chance break free. Eventually Lisa returned, looking flustered yet determined. Her energy shifted noticeably, as if she'd made some pivotal decision during her phone call outside, even though she hadn't shared details yet. Still, something hung heavy between us all, now growing thicker than before. "We should probably wrap things up soon," my husband suggested, casually checking his watch while yawning slightly, stretching arms overhead signaling end-of-evening rituals approaching fast upon us all. Lisa shot him an annoyed glance before turning back toward me, expectantly waiting for confirmation about plans moving forward. What would happen next? Would we continue pretending everything remained normal, or dive headfirst into turmoil, waiting patiently just below surface, eager find release? As everyone began gathering belongings, preparing leave, I caught glimpse of Jake lingering near doorway, watching intently, awaiting last chance say something meaningful before disappearing into night alongside rest family members, leaving behind echoes, fading memories behind once more. But instead silence stretched taut between us both, heavy laden with unspoken words simmering quietly, waiting patiently until next moment revealed itself somehow. The lingering silence in the doorway felt heavier than the weight of secrets I had been carrying. Jake's gaze held a mixture of longing and uncertainty, a reflection of my own turmoil. I could sense the tension crackling between us, as if the air itself was charged with unspoken confessions. He shifted slightly, and I caught a glimpse of his hesitation, the way he seemed to grapple with whether to step forward or retreat. "Are you okay?" he finally asked, his voice low enough that only I could hear. "I'm fine," I replied, though my heart pounded in my chest. Fine was a relative term these days. Beneath the surface, everything felt anything but stable. As I turned away, my mind raced through the chaos of recent events. Lisa's demands for a new car loomed large in my thoughts. The audacity of her threats hung like a dark cloud over our already strained relationship. She had always been headstrong, but this felt different, more calculated and desperate. The thought unsettled me. It was as if she were wielding our family dynamics like a weapon. The next morning arrived with an unsettling clarity. My husband had taken to pacing around the house more than usual, his brow furrowed in concentration. I knew he was piecing together fragments of conversations and behaviors that didn't add up. Every time he glanced at me, I could feel his scrutiny weighing heavily on my shoulders. "Did you notice anything strange last night?" he asked over breakfast, his tone casual yet probing. "Just the usual family chaos," I replied lightly, but inside, my stomach twisted at the implications behind his words. "What did he suspect?" "Lisa seemed off," he continued, not looking up from his coffee cup. "I wonder if she's hiding something." My heart raced again as I considered how much Lisa might have shared with him about her relationship, or worse, about mine with Jake. "She's just going through a phase," I said dismissively. But deep down, dread coiled tighter within me like a spring ready to snap. Later that day, while sorting through old family photographs in search of some semblance of normalcy, my phone buzzed insistently on the table beside me. It was an unknown number, a private investigator hired by my husband to uncover whatever he suspected lay beneath our family's facade. "Ms. Harper," came a gravelly voice when I answered. "Yes?" My pulse quickened as anxiety rippled through me. "I have some findings regarding your daughter and her boyfriend." I swallowed hard, dread settled heavily in my chest as I braced myself for what was coming next. "Your husband has reason to believe there are hidden aspects to their relationship that may involve you." "What do you mean?" My voice trembled slightly despite my efforts to sound composed. "There are photos and messages that suggest more than just casual interactions." My mind raced, a whirlwind of panic and guilt engulfed me as images flashed before my eyes, stolen moments with Jake that felt so right yet so wrong. "What do you want from me?" "We'll need to discuss this further." With that cryptic statement hanging in the air like a guillotine poised for execution, he hung up without another word. The walls began closing in around me as reality settled into place. Everything was unraveling at an alarming rate. That evening felt unusually tense at dinner. Lisa sat across from us with an expression that masked her true feelings behind forced smiles and casual chatter about schoolwork. But her eyes flickered occasionally toward me, searching for something unspoken between us both, and it unnerved me more than anything else could have. After dinner, while clearing plates from the table, Lisa cornered me in the kitchen as soon as she thought we were alone enough not to be overheard by her father watching TV nearby. "I need to talk to you," she said urgently, her voice barely above a whisper. "What is it?" Her expression shifted from anxiousness to determination as she leaned closer. It reminded me too much of how we had navigated secrets together before, only now there was an edge of desperation about her demeanor that sent chills down my spine. "I want that car," she demanded flatly. "If you don't get it for me, well, let's just say things could get messy." A lump formed in my throat as fear wrapped its icy fingers around my heart. This wasn't just about materialism anymore. It felt like blackmail cloaked under familial ties. "I can't just give you." "You can't afford not to," she interrupted fiercely. "You know what's at stake here." For a moment we stood there locked in this silent standoff, the weight of our shared secrets pressing down on both our shoulders until finally breaking free into oppressive silence once more before she turned away abruptly, leaving nothing but echoes trailing behind her departure into darkness beyond kitchen light's reach. I sank into one of our worn chairs, feeling utterly defeated by all these tangled threads binding us together yet threatening to tear apart every single strand holding our family intact. The very threads meant for love and connection now feeling suffocating instead. As night fell outside, casting shadows across familiar rooms, filled memories once cherished now tainted by betrayal lurking beneath surface calmness, a sudden thought struck. What if Jake revealed everything? What if Lisa did too? Would either one care about consequences? The possibility gnawed at me relentlessly until sleep eluded all attempts for solace amid swirling uncertainties clouding judgment further still. In those restless hours before dawn broke anew, I weighed options against each other, carefully contemplating sacrifices made a long way leading up until now, contemplating whether chasing fleeting happiness worth risking entire family stability built over years. With every tick echoing louder against walls surrounding me, it became clear. Something would have to give eventually, and when it did, who would be left standing amidst ruins left behind? The sun rose slowly, casting a muted light through our kitchen window. I stood at the counter, stirring coffee, my thoughts tangled in the chaos that had become my life. The weight of my husband's suspicions loomed over me like a dark cloud, threatening to burst at any moment. Each sip of the warm brew felt like a reminder of the precarious balance I was trying to maintain between being a mother and pursuing my own happiness. Lisa had been unusually quiet since her confrontation with me. I could sense her anger simmering just below the surface, ready to boil over. The ultimatum she had laid out was clear: a new car or else. I had hoped that by giving her what she wanted, we could smooth over the rough edges of our relationship. But now, it seemed that every decision I made only tightened the noose around us. As I poured myself another cup, my phone buzzed insistently on the table. It was an unknown number, but something compelled me to answer it. Hello? Mrs. Thompson? This is Detective Harris. His voice was steady but carried an undercurrent of tension. I have some information regarding your husband's inquiry. My heart raced as he continued. We've uncovered evidence that suggests your involvement with your daughter's boyfriend. I felt a chill run down my spine. What do you mean? There are photographs and messages that indicate a personal relationship, he stated matter-of-factly. The world around me blurred as I processed his words. My mind raced back to those moments, our stolen kisses and whispered confessions in shadows where no one could see us. How had it come to this? Is there anything else? I managed to ask, my voice barely above a whisper. Just know that your husband is aware of these findings, he replied before hanging up. I stood frozen in place for what felt like an eternity, grappling with the implications of his words. My husband would confront me soon, there was no escaping it now. Later that afternoon, as I prepared for Lisa's birthday party, every sound seemed amplified in our home: the clinking of dishes, laughter from outside where neighbors gathered for their own celebrations, all reminders of how far removed from joy we had become. The decorations hung limply around me as if they too sensed the impending storm. When my husband finally walked through the door, his expression told me everything before he even spoke a word. His eyes were sharp and searching, they bore into mine with an intensity that made it impossible to look away. We need to talk, he said flatly. I nodded slowly, bracing myself for what was coming next. About what? About you and Jason. His voice trembled slightly at the mention of Lisa's boyfriend, a name that now felt like poison on my tongue. My heart sank further into despair as he produced his phone and turned it toward me, the screen illuminated with damning images and messages exchanged between Jason and me during those secretive moments we thought were safe from prying eyes. How long has this been going on? He demanded, his tone shifting from confusion to anger. It's complicated, I stammered defensively, but deep down I knew there was no justification for what had happened between us. Complicated? You're involved with our daughter's boyfriend. He shouted now, frustration boiling over into fury. I didn't plan for this. It just happened, I pleaded desperately. He took a step back as if struck by an invisible force. Disbelief etched across his face made it clear how deeply hurt he felt by my betrayal. You've turned our family upside down for what? A fleeting affair? I never meant for any of this. My voice trailed off under the weight of reality pressing down upon me. Before I could gather myself enough to continue explaining, Lisa burst through the door unannounced, her presence filling the room with palpable tension. She caught sight of us standing apart, my husband's face flushed with rage while mine bore traces of guilt, and immediately sensed something was wrong. What's going on? She asked sharply, her eyes darting between us like a hawk assessing its prey. Her question hung heavily in the air as silence enveloped us all, a silence so thick it felt suffocating. My heart raced, she could feel it too, the shift in dynamics that threatened to unravel everything we'd built together as a family over years spent navigating life side by side. Lisa, my husband began cautiously but faltered when faced with her fierce gaze demanding answers without delay. I want to know. Her voice rose defiantly as she crossed her arms across her chest, anger radiated off her like heat waves rising from pavement on a hot summer day. I think you already know, he finally responded bitterly after gathering himself enough to speak again, his words landing heavily between us all like stones thrown into still water rippling outward uncontrollably until drowning everything they touched beneath their weighty truths exposed too soon for comfort or understanding alike. No. Lisa exclaimed incredulously. Disbelief painted across her features morphed quickly into something darker. A mix of betrayal and hurt mingled together within those once innocent eyes now clouded by confusion stemming from revelations none should ever have been forced upon them during moments meant solely for celebration instead. "You're lying," she shouted defiantly before spinning away from us both. Her feet pounding against hardwood floors echoing throughout our home filled once more only echoes left behind where laughter once rang freely among loved ones gathered together celebrating milestones shared throughout lives intertwined long before secrets began tearing them apart piece by piece. As she stormed off toward her room upstairs, I exchanged glances filled not just with sorrow but regret too heavy even breathe under its weight pressing down upon shoulders already burdened beyond measure trying desperately hold everything intact while knowing deep inside nothing would ever be quite right again after today. With every passing second ticking away toward inevitable confrontation looming ahead, I couldn't help but wonder if this would mark beginning end not just relationship shared between father-daughter but entire family unit forged through years spent navigating life together lovingly until now. The party loomed ahead like an impending storm ready unleash chaos upon unsuspecting souls gathered beneath roof meant shelter instead becoming battleground where secrets would clash against loyalty leaving devastation behind regardless outcome reached ultimately. Decided based choices made long ago leading up until this moment when truth finally emerged uninvited revealing fractures hidden beneath surface waiting patiently time reveal themselves fully. The house buzzed with the energy of the birthday celebration, a stark contrast to the tension simmering beneath the surface. Laughter echoed from the kitchen, where friends and family gathered around a table adorned with balloons and streamers. The aroma of cake mingled with the scent of freshly brewed coffee, creating an atmosphere that felt deceptively warm. Yet, I could sense the impending storm. Lisa flitted about, her excitement palpable as she greeted guests. She wore a smile that seemed genuine, but I knew better. Beneath that facade lay a tangled web of secrets and betrayals. My heart raced as I caught sight of her boyfriend arriving, his presence sending a jolt through me. He was supposed to be just another guest, yet in my mind, he carried the weight of our shared history, one I desperately wanted to keep hidden. "Mom, can you help me with the candles?" Lisa called out, breaking my reverie. I forced a smile and joined her at the table. As we lit each candle, I couldn't shake off the feeling that this celebration was about to take a dark turn. "Everything looks amazing," I said, trying to sound enthusiastic. "You've really outdone yourself." "Thanks. I just want today to be perfect," she replied, her eyes sparkling with anticipation. But perfection was an illusion, one that would soon shatter. As guests continued to arrive, I caught glimpses of my husband lingering near the entrance, his expression unreadable. He had been on edge lately, ever since he hired those private investigators. The tension between us had grown like a thick fog that refused to lift. "Hey there." Lisa's boyfriend greeted me with an easy smile as he entered. I returned his smile but felt a pang of guilt twist inside me. "Glad you could make it," I managed to say. The moment hung in the air like an unspoken agreement between us, a shared understanding of what lay beneath our interactions. Just then, Lisa bounded over to him and wrapped her arms around his waist in a gesture so innocent it made my stomach churn. As we moved into the living room for presents and cake cutting, laughter filled the space again. But my mind raced ahead, anticipating what would unfold when it came time for my husband's big reveal, the evidence he had collected against me. "Mom, can you take pictures while I open gifts?" Lisa asked excitedly. Of course, I replied automatically, though my heart wasn't in it. My fingers trembled slightly as I held up my phone to capture her joy. One by one, Lisa opened presents, clothes from friends and trinkets that would soon be forgotten amid the chaos of teenage life. But as she tore through wrapping paper with glee, my thoughts drifted back to what lay ahead, confrontation. After gifts were opened and cake was served, Lisa stood up and clinked her glass for attention. "Thank you all for coming. "This is such an important day for me," she announced brightly. I watched her intently. She seemed blissfully unaware of how precarious our situation was becoming. "And now," she continued with a mischievous grin, "I have one more surprise." A wave of dread washed over me as she gestured toward the door where her boyfriend stood waiting with a sly grin on his face, an unwelcome addition to our already fraught gathering. The room erupted into applause as he joined us at the center stage we'd created in our living room. My husband's expression hardened at this unexpected twist. I could see him processing everything in real time, the implications lingering like smoke after fireworks fade away. "What's going on?" my husband asked sharply when he realized who had just walked in uninvited yet somehow part of this celebration now. "Oh, come on. It's just Caleb." Lisa laughed off his concern with casual ease that only heightened my own anxiety about how much longer we could keep pretending everything was fine. "Just Caleb?" my husband repeated incredulously. Irritation seeped into his tone as he crossed his arms defensively across his chest, a stance familiar from countless arguments past where accusations flew like arrows aimed directly at me without hesitation or remorse. I took a deep breath before stepping forward cautiously. Perhaps now was not too late for damage control if only we could weather this storm together rather than letting it tear us apart completely. "Caleb is a friend," I said slowly. Each word felt heavy on my tongue as if weighing down not just myself but also every secret held within our family unit. A burden threatening collapse under pressure too great for any one person alone bear anymore without crumbling entirely under its weight. "Is that what we're calling him now?" My husband shot back bitterly before turning away from me completely toward their direction instead, his eyes narrowing dangerously at them both while they exchanged glances filled with something far more than mere friendship shared between them. "I invited him because he's important to me," Lisa interjected defensively, youthful defiance radiating from her like heat waves rising off pavement during summer days long past when innocence still reigned supreme over all else surrounding us. "I can't believe you'd bring him here," my husband exclaimed incredulously while gesturing broadly around us as if trying somehow make sense out chaos unfolding before everyone present, including those who were supposed to celebrate rather than witness unraveling threads binding us together tightly until now. With each passing moment tensions escalated further until finally boiling point reached its apex when accusations flew freely among guests gathered nearby. Some whispering behind hands cupped over mouths while others shifted uncomfortably shifting glances between family members caught up midst turmoil spiraling out control quickly beyond anyone's reach anymore. Suddenly everything erupted into chaos around us. A cacophony of voices blending together into indistinguishable noise drowning out reason entirely leaving only raw emotion standing starkly exposed against backdrop once filled laughter now replaced by tears streaming down cheeks faces turned red from anger. Frustration disappointment betrayal layered thickly beneath surface barely concealed any longer. And then amidst all confusion came revelation so shocking it left silence hanging heavy air around us like fog settling down after storm passes leaving destruction behind without mercy showing no signs letting up anytime soon either despite best efforts made try salvage whatever remained intact before this moment arrived finally forcing truth spill forth even if consequences dire awaited those involved regardless outcome reached ultimately decided based choices made long ago leading up until this very instant when reality unveiled itself fully revealing fractures hidden beneath surface waiting patiently time revealed themselves completely. The room fell into a heavy silence, the air thick with tension as everyone processed the revelations that had just unfolded. Lisa's eyes burned with unshed tears, her face a mask of anger and betrayal. "You were supposed to be on my side," she shouted, her voice cracking under the weight of her emotions. "How could you do this to me?" I stood there, paralyzed by guilt and shame, unable to formulate a response. My husband's expression was a mixture of disbelief and fury. He turned to me, his voice low but filled with a simmering rage. "Is this what our life has come to? You betray our family for him?" The party that was meant to celebrate Lisa's birthday had morphed into an arena of accusations and hurt. The decorations hung limply around us, once vibrant balloons now felt like weights dragging me down into despair. Friends and relatives exchanged glances, unsure whether to intervene or quietly observe the unraveling drama. "Mom, you were supposed to protect me." Lisa's voice trembled as she confronted me again. "Instead, you've just made everything worse." I could see the hurt etched across her face, each word piercing deeper than any physical blow could have. I wanted to reach out, to comfort her somehow, but every instinct told me that my touch would only deepen her pain. "Enough," my husband finally shouted, breaking through the chaos of emotions swirling around us. "This isn't just about you two anymore. You've dragged our whole family into this mess." His words hung in the air like a dark cloud threatening rain. I glanced at the gathered guests. Some were whispering among themselves while others pretended not to listen yet couldn't tear their eyes away from our family drama. "Maybe if you'd paid more attention," Lisa shot back defiantly, "you would have seen how unhappy we all are. This isn't just about you two, it's about how you've both failed me." Her accusation stung like ice water splashed against my skin. I'd wanted to shield her from the complexities of relationships but had instead woven a web of deceit that ensnared us all. "Lisa," I started cautiously, searching for words that might bridge this chasm between us. "I didn't mean for any of this." "Stop. Just stop," she interrupted fiercely. "You think I'm going to let this go? You think I'm going to pretend everything is fine?" The room felt smaller as tensions escalated further with each passing moment. My husband clenched his fists at his sides as he took a step toward Lisa. "You're not innocent in this either," he said sharply, his gaze unwavering. "What do you mean?" Lisa shot back defensively. "You think your demands are justified? You blackmailed your mother for a car," he exclaimed. "I didn't blackmail anyone. I was trying to get what I deserved after everything." Her voice rose higher as frustration spilled over into anger once more. The chaos continued as voices rose and fell in an attempt to navigate through the emotional storm we found ourselves in. Every word felt like another nail in our family coffin. "I can't believe this is happening," one of our friends murmured quietly from across the room, their face pale with shock. As they spoke softly amongst themselves, I felt utterly exposed, stripped bare before those who had once seen us as a cohesive family unit now fractured beyond recognition. My husband turned back toward me then, his eyes bore into mine with an intensity that left no room for escape or denial. "What do we do now?" he asked quietly, though his tone suggested it was less a question and more an ultimatum. I opened my mouth but no sound came out. Words had abandoned me completely in this moment of raw honesty and vulnerability laid bare before everyone present. Lisa took advantage of my silence. She stepped closer and pointed an accusatory finger at me once again. "You should have thought about that before getting involved with him. You ruined everything." Her words struck deep. They echoed in my mind long after they left her lips, each syllable carrying weight that threatened to pull us all under. "I didn't want any of this," I finally managed to say through clenched teeth while fighting against tears threatening to spill over once more. "Then why did you let it happen?" she retorted bitterly before turning away from me entirely as if severing whatever remaining ties held us together at that moment. My heart sank further as I watched her retreat into herself amidst the crowd surrounding us, a daughter lost within layers upon layers of hurt and disappointment stemming from choices made by both mother and child alike. Suddenly there was movement behind me. Someone pushed through the throng gathering around us, a familiar figure emerging from behind shadows cast by angered faces illuminated by dim party lights flickering overhead like dying stars struggling against darkness encroaching upon them all too quickly now. It was Lisa's boyfriend, the one who had ignited this entire saga with his presence alone, and he looked utterly bewildered by what transpired before him moments earlier. "What's going on?" he asked cautiously while glancing between us. the tension palpable enough that even he could sense something monumental had shifted irreversibly within our family dynamics during these fleeting seconds stretching out endlessly before us all now. Before anyone could answer him, or even begin processing what lay ahead, Lisa broke down completely. Sobs racked her body violently as she collapsed onto one of the nearby chairs meant for guests attending birthday festivities merely moments ago, now transformed into something far darker than any celebration should ever become. And just like that, the dam broke open wide, spilling forth not only tears but also years' worth unresolved issues hidden beneath surface, all along waiting patiently until tonight when everything erupted, leaving nothing untouched, forever changing relationships forged over decades. In that moment, amidst chaos unfolding around us, where love once flourished now lay devastation wrought by choices made without consideration, consequences looming large overhead, casting shadows long enough enveloping even brightest hopes, dreams shared once upon happier times gone forevermore. As silence settled over everyone present, each person caught somewhere between shock, disbelief, stillness, gripping hearts tightly. It became clear there would be no easy resolution following such upheaval. Instead, only uncertainty loomed ahead, casting doubt, future paths chosen, moving forward, leaving lingering questions unanswered forevermore.